The Red Sox extend their winning streak to 3 games and are 1 win away from the sweep. But can they keep this going is the real question.
You are Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I want to welcome you back into the Locked On Red Sox podcast, and thank you so much for making Locked On Red Sox your first listen of every single day. I am your host, Massachusetts Pirates team insider and production assistant for the WooSox, Jake Ignaszewski, and I'll be riding solo today as we'll be talking about the Red Sox 8-3 win against the Pittsburgh Pirates, which, as I mentioned in the opener, extends their winning streak to 3 games and brings them back to 500, which is huge for this team because they just need to continue to stack up these wins. You know, Lauren and I said it perfectly in yesterday's episode that it doesn't matter if they're playing the Pirates. We understand that the Pirates are one of the worst teams in the league, but the Red Sox, where they are in the standings and what they have to do in order to be able to get back into legitimate playoff contention is continue to win these ball games no matter who they are playing. And they did just that. The offense came out swinging, as I mentioned, ended up scoring 8 total runs. But we'll start off talking about the pitching. Rich Hill went out there, throwing 5 innings, only allowing 3 hits, 2 earned runs, and 4 strikeouts. He ended up allowing the first 2 runs to Bryan Reynolds in the first inning for a 2-run shot for Reynolds. And honestly, Hill looked very good. He's somebody who has been a little bit inconsistent throughout this season, has really been a very typical number 5 starter, allowing 3 to 4 runs every single start or so, but did well keeping guys off base in this game and had very good control. And it was nice that he was able to go into the 6th. But luckily, Ryan Brasier, we're getting the good side of Ryan Brasier at the moment. He struck out the side tonight in 14 pitches. And most of the time, as you know, if you've listened to this podcast long enough, Lauren and I get a little bit nervous with Ryan Brasier on the mound. And seeing Brasier in there in the 6th inning didn't make me too comfortable. Even though it was against the Pirates offense, I still didn't feel super comfortable, but luckily Brasier has been coming up clutch the last few games. He's retired all 9 batters he's faced in his last 3 outings, and especially for a guy who has been a little bit inconsistent for this Red Sox bullpen throughout the season, he is coming up clutch at the perfect time for this team. This is exactly what this team needs at the moment, is consistency on both sides of the baseball, and especially within that bullpen, because once those starters get out, we've seen this team allow teams to creep back in, especially in the later innings. And with their lack of a closer, hopefully Matt Barnes, knock on wood, can slot right back in there and can continue his confidence and his good streak that he's been having. But really, it's so important for this team to be able to keep these wins and finish them strong with good performances like we've seen from Ryan Brasier. And we also saw Sawamura come out and pitch 2 great innings for the Red Sox. Ended up he ended up not allowing a hit or a earned run, ended up striking out 1 batter. And I actually saw a stat come out about him from Red Sox stats that he's actually pitched now 100 innings for the Red Sox, struck out 100 batters in those innings, and elapsed a 3.06 ERA. And he's somebody who, looking at what he has done over the last 2 seasons, honestly, when he still comes in, I still get very nervous because of some of his blowups. But really looking at those numbers, it shows that on paper, he's a very reliable very reliable reliever who comes in is able to get the job done. 3.06 ERA as a reliever. Obviously not a superstar reliever, but that's reliable. That's what you want to see. And especially with this Red Sox bullpen, with how limited it really has been throughout this season, you can take what you can get. Newcomer Jeurys Familia came in and had a little bit of trouble in there in the 9th, allowed 3 hits, 1 earned run. We saw him have some control issues throughout the inning. And, I had a little bit of intrigue, him coming back from his tough start of the season with the Phillies. He said that when he pitched in Worcester, he felt better than he ever has. And I had a little bit of confidence that, that would really correlate to a much better version of Familia. We saw him be a dominant starter for the New York Mets back in 2018, 2019, even in 2021. He was very good for the Mets, and hopefully he can start to find his footing and be a semi-reliable guy for this Red Sox bullpen. As I just mentioned, this bullpen can really take whatever they can get from their bullpen at the moment. As long as you're consistent getting outs and helping the Red Sox win ball games, that's all that really matters right now. But looking at the offense, as I mentioned, it started out with Bryan Reynolds for the Pirates, putting them up 2-0. And then we saw Christian Arroyo rope a double to right field to tie it up 2-2 in the top of the second. Kike Hernandez got in on the action, ended up singling to drive in Arroyo to give the Red Sox a 3-2 lead, still in that top of the second. And then going into the top of the fifth, we saw Alex Verdugo double to make it 4-2. Then in the eighth, Rob Ref Schneider coming back and helping the team out. Being patient at the plate, ended up walking to score Alex Verdugo to make it a 5-2 game. And then coming in there and the ninth, the Red Sox score some insurance runs. Christian Arroyo continues swinging a hot bat, singling to left field, which deflected off the third baseman to make it 6-2. And then we saw Kevin Plawecki single to pad on that lead, making it 8-2. And Christian Arroyo, he has just been on fire since coming back from the IL. He currently is batting .389, and it's great to see Arroyo being able to get some consistent at-bats, consistent playing time, and really showing that he is more than just a bench guy. And we've been waiting as fans to be able to see a full season or just an extended period of Christian Arroyo getting consistent playing time, because it seems like anytime he does get that opportunity, he either gets injured or he gets COVID for like the 10,000th time. He just has the worst luck, it seems like, other than obviously Chris Sale. We've seen how bad his luck has been, but Christian Arroyo has been coming up so clutch for this Red Sox team, being able to fill in for Trevor Story. It will really be interesting to see if he gets a little bit more playing time, even when Story does come back. I really hope he does, because I think he really deserves it with how hot he's been swinging the bat. But obviously, we'll see if they slow Story's return back a little bit and give every other Arroyo Story, or we'll see how he really feels when he does ultimately return. But going into our second segment, we're going to do a little bit of an update on James Paxton. I don't know if you guys forgot about him, but the Red Sox did sign him this offseason, and he's been recovering from Tommy John surgery. So we'll talk a little bit about him returning, as well as we'll get into some fan thoughts from Locked On Red Sox Twitter from the Red Sox win against the Pirates. But before we do that, I just want to take a second to talk to you about Liver Health Formula. So did you know that the key to sustainable weight loss is through your liver? The liver is the body's metabolic furnace. It's responsible for flushing out harmful toxins, igniting your fat-burning metabolism. But thanks to modern diets rich in unhealthy processed foods and constant exposure to thousands of man-made and environmental toxins, most of us have overworked our livers. But for now, it's easy to rejuvenate your liver health and reignite your metabolism thanks to Liver Health Formula by PureHealth Research. Liver Health Formula contains 8 liver-boosting super nutrients like turmeric, beet, and artichoke extract, all of which work together to wake up a sluggish liver. No more uncomfortable digestion, no more feeling tired and low energy all the time. And best of all, Liver Health Formula makes it easier for you to maintain a healthy body weight long term. And as a listener of our show, you get to try Liver Health Body Formula risk-free today and get a free bottle of Curve Fit with your order. Curve Fit is a safe and all-natural appetite supplement, making it easy for you to say no to naughty foods. This makes it perfect complement to Liver Health Formula. So go to getliverhelp.com/MLB to learn more. Again, that's getliverhelp.com/MLB to try Liver Health Formula completely risk-free. So James Paxton is somebody that Lauren and I have brought up throughout this season as a potential person who could slot into that Red Sox rotation at the end of this season. And honestly, he's somebody that I continue to forget about since he's been returning from Tommy John surgery throughout this season. Honestly, the updates have been a little bit sporadic. We saw an update in May, a joint one from him and Chris Sales returned from the injury that they both had setbacks. And then most recently, we heard that he started ramping up his throwing a little bit more. And now he is finally scheduled to make a rehab appearance for 3 innings in the Florida Gulf Coast League tomorrow. And according to Red Sox stats, this is exactly how Sales started his return last summer. And after Sales started for the Red Sox, it was 31 days later, which would be September 17th for Paxton. So that would mean he would get a total of 4 MLB starts. Now, it would be really interesting to see how much of that weight will really be put on if the Red Sox pick up his option or not. And as I bet most of you forgot from his contract details, he does have an option that the Red Sox can ultimately pick up for next season. So he could be a great reinforcement for this Red Sox rotation as a filler, another reliable guy. And he's somebody that, some of the guys who've been watching some of his rehab has said that he has looked absolutely filthy. And so hopefully we can get the Yankees version of James Paxton, a reliable version of James Paxton, who can really be able to be another good arm that the Red Sox can look to help them build up these wins, especially in the later part of this season. But some great news for the Red Sox to be able to get a guy like Paxton back, especially at this time, because, as I've said throughout this episode, every single win matters. So this is just a perfect time for him to be able to come back. But now looking at some of the fan thoughts from Locked On Red Sox Twitter, and if you have not followed us yet over there, it's LO_Red Sox. But starting off with Pigskin Prognosticator, I think that's how you say it. But Arroyo shouldn't get benched for Story when he comes back from injury. I'm a little bit up in the air with this one too. It's kind of like I mentioned, it'll be interesting to see really how quickly they bring back Story, if they immediately place him right back into that second base role right when he comes back. I think that Arroyo should get a little bit more playing time with how well he's been playing. I think maybe you alternate them just to give Story a little bit of time to get fully back to health. But it'll be really interesting to see how Alex Cora really goes about that. And especially now with Kike Hernandez being able to be slotted in multiple different places, that could potentially clog up some of the time that Christian Arroyo would be able to get some of that playing time. But luckily, he's got that great versatility. So it'll be very interesting to see where Alex Cora will use him in the future when Story does ultimately come back. But we saw Brother Bob say it's a good thing it was the Pirates without pitching. And, couldn't agree more. Even though, I said start of this episode, every win matters, doesn't matter against what team. Thank God it was the Pirates, because if Familia ended up obviously not doing too great and ended up blowing this Red Sox lead, or we could even say Sawamura or Brasier, even though they both have been pitching very well recently, we could have seen a very different outcome in this game. But you really got to be able to win these winnable games. And, especially what we saw against the Kansas City Royals, that's just not playoff caliber. That's just not what playoff caliber teams do. And you really got to be able to win these very winnable games. And then we lastly saw Cam Holty say, put up a big lead enough that couldn't be lost to a reliever. Exactly. Pretty much what I just said. Thank God the Red Sox relievers were reliable and that the offense was able to put up enough. So then, it didn't make it too close of a game, or to ultimately help the Pirates come back. But the Red Sox will now look to get a sweep against the Pittsburgh Pirates tomorrow night. Nathan Eovaldi will be on the mound for the Red Sox. Then we'll see JT Brubaker on the mound for the Pirates. Brubaker is coming into this game with a 2-10 overall record and ERA of 4.45 over 22 games started. And hopefully Eovaldi can sort of replicate and even pitch a little bit better than what we saw him do in his last start against the New York Yankees. And that's really all this Red Sox pitching will need right now, is just reliability and consistency, continue to stack up these wins. I don't know why that was such a tongue twister, but especially with where the Red Sox are in the standings currently, they just need to keep on building up and finding ways to creep back up on that wild card. They're 4 games out currently right now, and so every single win matters. I'm sorry I keep on saying that, but it's just so crucial right now in this moment in time. And before we go into our third and final segment of the Locked On Red Sox podcast, I just want to take a second to talk to you about Drive Sober. So you're hanging out with some friends and putting back a few drinks, and a few becomes a few too many as the evening comes to an end and people start to head out, and you think of calling for a ride. Nah, you live close by and you can make it home okay. It's no big deal. What are the odds that you'll get pulled over anyway? And even so, what's the worst that could happen? Your insurance goes up, you lose your license, you kill someone. Everyone knows about the risks of driving drunk. The results are tragic and often deadly. However, that still doesn't stop everyone from getting behind the wheel while under the influence. And that's why police officers are out there right now looking for impaired drivers on our roads to save lives. So if you're thinking that you're okay to drive after a few drinks, think again. Play it safe and plan ahead to get a ride. It only takes one mistake to change your life and somebody else's forever. So drive sober or get pulled over. And to end this episode of the Locked On Red Sox podcast, we're going to end it with our mental health minute as always. So especially with everything that's happening right now, with summer winding down, it's starting to get a little bit colder. And I don't know about you guys, but I sometimes have seasonal depression. At times, the colder air makes me a little bit sad sometimes, to be quite honest with you. I love going outside. I love hiking. I love outdoor sports. And to not be able to have those, it's tough for me sometimes. And so I love to go out and ski, luckily, so that helps me during the winter. But especially with it getting a little bit colder, trying to find some of the small ways to help your mental health and continue to help boost your mood is so important. And that's something that I do a lot throughout the winter, is make sure I am doing my affirmations every morning. I'm making sure that I'm keeping up with my self-care and giving breaks for myself so that I don't overwhelm myself. And, especially if you are somebody that deals with that as well, this is the time to start preparing for some of those colder times and to really start to build up some of those routines so you don't get into a place where, you do have seasonal depression and you don't have those techniques or ways in place to be able to help out your mental health. Because at the end of the day, your physical health and your mental health are practically the same exact thing. But we greatly appreciate everybody tuning in to a Locked On Red Sox podcast and making Locked On Red Sox your first listen of every single day. Now make your second listen Locked On MLB. Paul Francis Sullivan brings you humor, passion, and his unique perspective on every team and the biggest stories around the league. Follow the #1 daily league-wide podcast, Locked On MLB, on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. Also follow Locked On Red Sox on Twitter. It's at @LO_Red Sox. As you heard, we did some fan thoughts through Twitter. And so if you follow us, you would be able to see our tweet when we're looking for some of these thoughts to use in the episode. And, you can reply and you can be featured on the episode that we're recording, that day. So go over and follow us over there. Also follow myself on Twitter. It's at Jake Iggy, and also my co-host Lauren. It's Lauren with 4 R's. But as always, we hope everybody has a great rest of their day, and we'll end it how we always end it. Let's go Sox.